My name is Thelka Aronson, and I invite you to join me on the roller coaster ride of the CFO Case Study Competition 2019. As part of its pursuit to transform education in Africa, the Charter Quest Institute South Africa a few years ago embarked on a journey to, on an annual basis, but only after multiple stages of team assessments, bring some of the brightest young students from across the globe to South Africa to contest in the CFO Case Study Competition, global and continental finals, challenging the students to prove that they can compete at the highest level by solving a set of complex and integrated finance, operational, strategic, and ethical problems that beset a real-world global business in the emerging market. Split between the Global University Edition and the Continental High Schools version, the semi-finals and finals of the 4th edition of this ever-growing initiative took place on the 15th and 16th of October 2019 at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, where 11 teams were battling it out in front of an international panel of industry expert judges with one goal in mind: to get to the top spot. The 2019 case study was based on a set of challenges that the Volkswagen Group was facing in the aftermath of the emissions scandal that shocked the world a few years ago. The teams have worked tirelessly for months with the hope of putting their best foot forward and provide the judges with solutions, but to ultimately prove that they have what it takes to succeed in the tough world of finance and business. Now, both the teams and the judges were ready to get down to business, and the stage was set for fierce competition. Next up to present to the panel, hoping to grip the judges with their solutions, was Team PRESEC Boys from Presbyterian Boys Secondary School in Ghana. Let's see if their determination to succeed was evident in their presentations and how well they responded to what the judges had to ask after the break.
Team PRESEC Boys from Ghana. You guys can come up.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. We are Team PRESEC Boys from Presbyterian Boys Secondary School, Ghana. I'm Darryl Quay, the leader and statistician.
I'm Joel Benson, business acumen.
And I'm Jerry Paddy, the consultant.
Prioritization of scenarios. We prioritize the scenarios into 3 main parts: current issues, future, and survival. Current issues deal with strategy and cost optimization, as well as product portfolio rationalization. These are the issues that the board must resolve before focusing on strategy 2025. Their future. Future deals with strategic sourcing of cobalt in Africa, as well as the e-mobility strategy. These are the issues that the board must resolve because in preparation for the long run. The future of the world. Survival deals with Paris Accord and environmental legislation. These are the issues that the board must resolve because these issues create opportunities or threats in meeting the demands of the future. Moving on now to strategy and cost optimization. We identified 2 problems in this case. The first problem is Herbert's centralization proposal. Dr. Herbert has proposed that if certain functional units are centralized under his authority, cost savings of €3,755.55 million be made. But this will create bottlenecks in decision making, get Herbert distracted, and directly contradicts key performance area number 3. The second problem that we identified is the suggestion to ditch the volume segment. From the trend in sales chart, the volume segment had fluctuations from January to July, while the push experienced a consistent decline in sales. The main reason why the volume segment had a significant increase in sales in the second quarter is due to the fact that the theory of polyvival model was ended. We therefore recommend that the group should not centralize the functional units, but rather delegate authority to branch executives to implement beneficial decisions. The group should also not ditch the volume segments, but rather make cars in the volume more beneficial to buyers. Buyers will purchase the cars they prefer, and the group must derive the contribution of each car to gross profit, enabling management to end the production of unprofitable models. Moving on now to product portfolio rationalization. We also identified two problems in this case. The first problem is the loss incurred by the volume segments in the first quarter of operation. When we investigated, if only one car is sold, the volume segments will incur a loss of 29.53 euros. But this is not at all because the volume segment is the group's core business. The second problem that we identified is that unprofitable models were produced and sold still in the volume segment. We therefore recommend that the group should increase the average price of cars sold in the volume range, setting gross margin as much as 30% of sales, yields a price of 12,762.61 euros, which is enough to provide positive gross profits for the rest of the quarters, despite the loss incurred by the volume segments in the first quarter of operation. We also recommend that the group should make cars with higher market share more beneficial to buyers.
Moving on now to scenario 2, strategic sourcing of cobalt in Africa. For the production of electric cars, procurement of cobalt is a necessity the group must cater for if such production is to begin. The question, however, is which procurement source best fits the financial as well as the ethical needs of the firm. We therefore identify the first problem as the dilemma of choosing a final source of cobalt supply that is between the lower cost option, artisanal miners, and the standard cost option, mining giants. We firstly recommend that the group does not deal with artisanal miners at all. Although the activities are much simpler and therefore cheaper, they are coupled with utter disregard for all safety practices and even worse, the inevitable involvement of child labor in mining activities. We therefore recommend that the group secure a supply contract with mining giants since they can state in advance both quantities and prices they offer and most importantly, satisfy the ethical requirements of the firm. Next, scenario 3, e-mobility strategy. Now the final of the two things the company must procure before producing electric vehicles is electric vehicle batteries. Although the company had a contract with Panasonic, it was relegated due to inaccurate forecasts. Now it must be noted that throughout the period the company slowed down in preparation, other car makers would have gained grounds ahead of Volkswagen in the production and selling of electric cars. We therefore identify the first problem as the dilemma of selecting one out of the 4 suppliers of EVBs. Second problem we've identified is the fact that VW must catch up with and overtake other car makers who have already begun in e-car production and selling. We firstly recommend that a group secures supply contract with supplier 4 on the basis of 1. Quantity. They offer 10 million units per year, which when compared with the group's goal of selling 3 million cars per year by 2025 is most preferred. Quality. Their products are rated very good, which when combined with the quantity they offer is an excellent combination. Location and cost. They are located in USA and China, which is expected to domesticate supply and reduce cost of procurement. And finally, type of contract. They offer a long-term contract, which is most preferred considering the plans of the firm for the future. We secondly recommend that Volkswagen engages in strong marketing preceding actual production of their models of electric cars to give viewers a sense of what these cars will look like and their positive impact on the environment. Finally, we recommend that VW engages in self-production of EVBs in the long term since their entire future is set to be based on them. Jerry.
Right. So scenario 5, Paris Accord and environmental legislation. Like my team leader said, the decision to be made in this scenario determines the survival of the firm. Broadly, the decision is between e-cars, that is if VW aging wants to abide by the regulation set up by the states forming the Climate Change Alliance, and 4 private vehicles, that is if the group does not want to abide. The net present value, NPV, of not abiding is 1 billion euros. However, a fine of 600 million euros is to be paid flat for 5 years and then grow by 1% in perpetuity annually. Our argument is that for about 20 to 30 years of not abiding, the fine paid cumulatively will yield the capital cost of abiding. This decision also leaves VW aging behind in the e-car race. We suggest that the group abide by the regulation, and there are 2 solutions to abiding. It's either they replace the engines or modify the engines. We suggest that the group replace the engines instead of modifying, even though the NPV for replacing the engines is in the negatives, while modifying is in the positives. Replacement solves every problem in this case because both higher-end cars and lower-end cars would be below the 99 grams of carbon dioxide per kilometer threshold, while modifying the higher-end cars would be above, and further strategies would have to be made. My team also made a SWOT analysis on VW aging, with their strengths being in marketing, as spectacular ideas were made to promote the sale of the VW app in South Africa. The weakness VW has is in forecasting, since wrong forecast was made about the future potential of e-cars. The opportunities VW has is with e-cars, since the world will be going green by then. And the threat VW has is the Dieselgate issue, still ongoing court, and could make the firm lose focus and customers as well.
The summary of our recommendations are, for scenario 1, do not centralize and make cars in a volume more beneficial to buyers. For scenario 4, we recommend that the group should increase the average price of cars sold in the volume range and make cars with higher market share more beneficial to buyers.
Scenario 2, do not deal with artisanal miners, deal with mining giants. Scenario 3, accept supplier force tender, engage in strong marketing preceding actual production, and finally, self-production of EVBs.
Scenario 5, meet emission standards, replace the engines, and then fund the cost by applying back of profits. We believe that if our recommendations are heeded to by VW aging, the problems they have will be solved without any further consequence. Thank you.
So well done to you.
Thank you.
I really liked the way that you staged your slides. Your first slide set the context and the pros and the cons, and your second slide made your recommendation, and your summary slide pulled it all together. Very well done. My question is, by doing this, what, I've seen what you said in the video. As a school group, to be working on a real life case study with the very real implications, what have you learnt about business and the world having done this? I'm interested to hear your honest opinions. Tell me what you've really learned.
If you could have a minute, please. Thank you. So right now.
And if I could phrase it by saying this, what do you know now that you didn't know before, obviously apart from Volkswagen's issues?
Okay. We have learned that companies usually make plans before venturing into anything. As in, before they start production, no matter what their product is, they have anticipated costs and sales beforehand. And that to me tells me that planning is indeed a really important part of organizational activities, and that strategy cannot be just left in the drawers.
If I may, the details of which it is done is what we were unaware of before, but now we've seen how deep they go into investigating into the effects of their plans before implementing it. So how deep they go into investigations is what I would say we've learned the most.
Interesting. Thank you very much, gentlemen. So your presentation was very good. I think you can see that a lot of time and effort has gone into practicing the presentation, and I think your storyline, which was actually very, your storyline was actually very coherent, very articulate, very on point. So well done for that. In your prioritization of scenarios, it's interesting how you have put the categories in terms of current issues, future issues, and survival issues. Can you probably maybe talk us through what would be the key strategic issues from a prioritization perspective in terms of what should the company be maybe attending to first? So this is brilliant, but I think I'd just like to know, if you were to tackle all of these, probably can't tackle them all at once, what would you start with and why?
Okay, so to begin, it would be probably in the same order we have stated here. Strategy and cost optimization. We're trying to lower costs to a level that the future issues, that's the sourcing of cohorts in Africa and e-mobility strategy, which will all lead to the production of e-cars, strategy 2025, can be achieved. So we will start with optimizing costs and reducing expenditure to be able to afford these projects. Then the future issues, strategic sourcing of cobalt in Africa and the e-mobility strategy will follow next to further make possible strategy 2025. And finally, survival will be handled by the costs we've saved in the strategy and cost optimization, product portfolio rationalization, all of them. And that cost will be used to fund that capital cost we know should be used to tend to the problem with the engines, the legal issues. That's it.
Well done, gentlemen. I was very impressed by your handling of the ethical issues. And I feel that if business is going to be this ethical in the future, we really have a lot of promise in the world. So thank you. Thank you for that. I just have a quick clarifying question. In your last slide, you spoke about how the volume range should be more beneficial to customers. But could you just elaborate on that a little bit further, just so that it's clear for us what you mean?
Thank you very much. Well, I believe that if I understand your question, you are basically asking me how exactly can the group make us in the volume range more beneficial to buyers? Right. Thank you very much. There's this marketing concept that I would like to put forth before I begin. Well, the Volkswagen Group, as a market-oriented firm, must define its market in terms of the benefits its customers seek, not in terms of the products they offer. And therefore, consumers' preferences should be medicated by some professional judgment as to how those benefits can be offered to them. Therefore, as one adage says, people don't know what they want. They only want what they know. So I believe that the group has particularly some idea about how exactly to make the cars in the volume be more beneficial to buyers.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. One of the recommendations that you have made in the product portfolio rationalization slide, right at the end, you have said increase the average price of cars sold. Have you gone into some thought into which cars were you going to increase, by how much, and what the implication of those increases would be, and what they would add to the bottom line?
Thank you very much for that question. Well, the volume segment actually attracts about 40% of sales. That is, the group gets 40% of its sales revenue from the volume segment. And so there are a lot of cars in that particular segment. The Volkswagen commercial vehicles, VW branded cars, Seats and all those other cars. Yes, that is true. But the group really has the data, the full detailed information as to which cars consumers like. That is what will enable them to increase the average price of cars sold. Because once they will know that these cars are the ones that consumers will purchase at any given moment in time. These are the cars that we tend to sell a lot in. So increasing the price and making the cars more beneficial to the buyers who whet buyers' appetite for the cars when they are released and they are better for the group. So increasing the average price of cars sold. Yes, that is true that certain cars prices will be slightly higher or below because the average price. But I believe that in general, almost all the cars in the volume segment should not be below the 12,762.61 euros price. I believe I answered your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Thank you.
So in your recommendations under the strategy and cost optimization challenge, you speak about under the do not ditch, the volume segment on the right-hand side. Your second recommendation is make management derive the contribution of each car to gross profit. So if you can speak about some of your thoughts around how management can really achieve that. So what are the strategies, being put in a position of making those decisions? What strategies would you deploy to ensure that you achieve that which you're recommending there?
You see, in accounting, we have departmental accounts, so they already record the contribution of each car in the departmental account. So the group can just scrutinize the departmental accounts and know which car is contributing to to gross profit and which car is making loss. As in scenario 4.
Okay.
Right.
And then if you go to your e-mobility strategy, in your recommendations, under the first recommendation, in terms of the type of contract, you are saying that you would enter into a long-term contract with supplier 4, and then at the bottom, you're talking about the self-production of EVBs. So I found that to be contradictory, because if that contract is long-term, and yet you have a plan to actually manufacture the EVPs yourself, just talk me through your thought process in terms of exactly what you meant by the two and how you plan to deal with it in real life.
Okay, so by long-term contracts, I was referring to basically contracts that last longer than 1 financial year. But for the self-production of EVPs, that's in the longer term. I was referring to the longer term, so after the expiration of that contract. So you don't have to go back to a supplier for their needs anymore.
So that's a 12-month contract then that is talking about.
Disadvantage.
Okay. Right?
So on the slide, actually, I wanted to ask you, this boardroom is taking place in 2018. You chose supplier 4 versus some of the others. What do you think, given this supplier's location, are some of the issues that, because of geopolitics and the global issues, that might cause a problem with you choosing this, that problems that might arise out of this choice? What do you think are some of those?
The only problem I see is probably fluctuation of exchange rates. That could affect the various prices they have to pay. But besides that, that's pretty much it.
Perhaps this will be stopped if we self-produce the EVBs, if we produce the EVBs by ourselves in the longer term.
Thank you very much.
This was Team PRESEC boys leaving their mark and hoping to claim one of the top 3 spots in the continental finals of the CFO 2019 case study competition as their own. But was their performance enough to push them through to the finals? Well, catch us next week to find out if these teams were able to rise to the occasion. Do you think you have what it takes to be a strategic business leader? Well, why not register for our 2020 CFO Global and Continental Case Study Competition? Registrations are open from November to March every year. Go and visit our website at this address to find out more.